Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome to today's Srimad Bhagavatam class. Today we are doing Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 85, text, text number 45. Chapter entitled Lord Krishna's Instruction to Vasudeva. Before we start, let's do a little short Mangalacharana. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Narum Chaim Narotamam Deving Saraswating Vyasam Tato Jayamudhirayet. Before we recite Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the only means of conquest, let us offer our respectful obeisance to the Supreme Personality, Lord Narayana, onto Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, onto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and onto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Paresha Avdareshu Nityam Bhagavadase Vaya Bhagavate Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavadi Naistikahi. By regularly attending Srimad Bhagavatam class and by rendering service to pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely vanquished, and loving devotional service onto the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, who is praised with choice prayers and transcendental poetry, is established in one's heart as an irrevocable fact. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyana Gyana Salakaya Chakshura Almartanyana Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of transcendental knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisance unto him. Namo Vishwadaya Krishna Prasthaya Putere Srimite Jayapataka Swami Iti Namni Nama Acharya Pidani Tai Kripa Pidani Gorakatadam Dai Nirgram Tani. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everybody. Today we are reading from Canto 10, Chapter 85, text 45. Tanna prasiddha nirikpeksha virmayo yusmat padaravindam dina sanaya grahananda kupat Nikskramya Vishwasaranagari Upalabhyavriti Santo Yathaika Uta Sarva Sakais Charami. Translation and purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Please be merciful to me as I may get out of the blind well of family life, my false home, and find the true shelter of your lotus feet, which selfless sages always seek. Then, either alone or in the company of great saints, who are the friends of everyone, I may wander freely, finding life necessities at the feet of the universally charitable trees. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur states that in response to Bali's prayer, Sri Krishna invited him to choose some benediction. And in this verse, Bali submits his request. Bali begs to be relieved of the entanglement of material life, so he will be free to leave home and wander in the wilderness with only the Lord's lotus feet as his shelter. For his subsistence, Bali proposes he will take help from the forest trees, at whose feet are fruits to eat and leaves to sleep on, for all to use as needed. And if the Lord is especially merciful to him, Bali hopes he will not have to wander alone, but will be allowed to travel in the company of Lord Krishna's devotee. Hare Krishna. So this is a gem of a verse, a real gem of a verse from Canto 10, Chapter 85, chapter entitled Lord Krishna Instructs Vasudeva. So this verse here was spoken by Bali Maharaj. So Bali Maharaj, being a very pure devotee of the Supreme Lord, he is being asked by Krishna and Balaram to request any boon he wants, and he asked for this boon. This is a very consistent pattern of pure devotees. Every time when the Supreme Lord asks them for anything, literally they can ask for anything. Literally, they can ask for anything. But instead, what they do is they will ask only for that which is a real benefit eternally for them. Anything other than this kind of request is at best will be temporary in nature. You can ask for a planet, you can ask for power, you can ask for any kind of opulence, but if this opulence and power are not connected directly to Krishna's loving devotional service, what happens is there's a beginning and there's an end, and then again you have to start your life all over again, birth, death, disease, old age, so the cycle of birth and death. So this Bali Maharaj is asking for such a boon. So this is actually the ending part of a long story. So let me tell you the beginning of this story. The story starts with Vasudeva, because this chapter's title is Lord Krishna Instructs Vasudeva. So this story starts when at one time when there was a eclipse, and all the saintly kings and sages, they went to Kurukshetra to perform devotional service. They saw it as a great opportunity to perform devotional service in association of other like-minded devotees, which is what Krishna consciousness is all about. This International Society of Krishna Consciousness is giving everybody, a common man on the street, an opportunity to come and learn this Bhakti Yoga. And also the centers that are created around the world, they are an opportunity for all these people to come together and try to practice this Krishna consciousness. Okay, so at this one time when there was an eclipse, there was a assembly of all these kings and sages, and amongst these kings was Krishna and Balaram, and amongst the peasants that came there was also Nanda Maharaj and the inhabitants of Vrindavan. So while this inhabitants of the Vrajavasis were in Kurukshetra, they took the opportunity to meet all their relatives. Okay, so this particular story starts when all the sages were about to leave. The opportunity to perform devotional service came to an end. They were about to leave. And Vasudeva being the father of Krishna, Vasudeva and Devaki, they were the parents of Krishna. He wanted to take the opportunity to get blessings from these sages. So he approached these sages with a very humble attitude. And he asked them this question. He asked the sages, please tell me what is it that would constitute the perfection of human life. So the sages were all very, very happy to hear such an exalted question. So they begin to explain to Vasudeva that the perfection of human life is to perform activities that are in sacrifice simply for the pleasure of Krishna. And amongst these sages were Narada Muni, and Narada Muni was making one point, and he was telling the sages there that this Vasudeva is actually the parent, the father of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. All the sages there, they know who Vasudeva was. But out of respect to him, and just to answer his question, they gave a very textbook answer. And Narada Muni seeing this, he explained to the sages that, there is a saying that goes, it is a verse, another gem of a verse from the previous chapter 84. Narada Muni said that, when a person who is born next to the Ganga, he will not think Ganga very highly, and he will go to another very far off place to take his bath to purify himself. So to say that, what they call, in English there is a saying, familiarity breeds contempt. So this is not a criticism of Vasudeva. Narada Muni is saying that the nature of Vasudeva being a pure devotee is that he never thought himself as being very great or exalted. He always thought himself as being simply but a humble devotee of Krishna. And being in that mode, they come across as being very humble and not puffed up, So Narada was saying that this Vasudeva actually, he is so exalted that he is not necessary for him to be conducting any kind of Vedic sacrifice. Why? Because he has achieved the perfection of human life. So an analogy to help you understand this is like this. Let's say you send your children to school to learn ABC and 1, 2, 3. So they go to school, they learn their ABCs, and A is apple, B is ball, C is cat, 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 2 is 4, So they do these exercises, okay? So if when you do these exercises, the purpose behind the exercise is to come to the stage where you're able to read and write and count efficiently, very effectively. So, so once you are able to read and count and write, is it necessary for you to do these exercises? A is apple, B is ball, C is cat, 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 2. No, not necessary. So this Vasudeva, because he has already achieved the perfection of human life, being the father of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he was not necessary for him to conduct all these Vedic sacrifices, this, that. But anyway, Vasudeva, he wanted to do. He wanted to do because he felt he was not qualified, and he was taking a very humble position, being a pure Vaishnava devotee of the Lord, and also at the same time he was a Kshatriya, he was a king, and he wanted to set an example for others to follow. So he wanted to perform these sacrifices. So Vasudeva Maharaj employed these sages to perform this sacrifice, and he gave them proper rewards, proper donation, proper gifts and all that. So everybody around, his family members, his friends, the other kings, they were all there. They took advantage of the opportunity to associate with such great sages. So after this ceremony, Vasudeva was approached by his 2 sons, Krishna and Balaram. So when Vasudeva saw his 2 sons, he fell at their feet and he asked them for forgiveness. Why? Because he thought he has committed an offense. Because he considered his sons to be merely his sons, merely his sons, despite knowing that when Krishna appeared in the prison cell of Kamsa, he saw that when just before Krishna appeared, Durga appeared and declared that this Krishna has already taken birth, you fool. He's saying like that. So he saw all this, and he transported baby Krishna from the jail cell of Kamsa to the village of Nandagram, where Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda was staying, and he exchanged the child. All that he knows. So he began to explain to Krishna how what he heard from the sages, and he asked Krishna for forgiveness. And there's another wonderful verse, and just before I forget, I better read. He says here, this is what Vasudeva, you are not our sons, but the very Lord of both material nature and its creator, Mahavishnu. As you yourself have told us, you have descended to rid the earth of the rulers who are a heavy burden upon her. Therefore, O friend of distress, I now approach you, lotus feet, for shelter, the same lotus feet that dispels all fear of the world existence for those who have surrendered to them. Enough with hankering for sense enjoyment, which makes me identify with this mortal body and think of you, the Supreme, as my child. Indeed, while still in the maternity room, you told us that you, the unborn Lord, has already been born several times as our son in previous ages. After manifesting each of these transcendental bodies to protect you, your own principles of religion, you then made them unmanifest, thus appearing and disappearing like a cloud. O supremely glorified, all-pervading Lord, who can understand the mystic deluding potency of your opulent expansion? So this is what Vasudeva was saying. Vasudeva was saying that, say, please, please forgive me, because I thought you as my child. And he says, he took the humble position of being a typical living entity like us, who are entangled in this material world. He says, enough with this hankering for sense enjoyment, which makes me identify with this mortal body and think of you, the Supreme, as my child. So he's saying here that all of us, we are in this material world because we desire to be enjoyers like Krishna. So, whenever you come across any situation where you ask, or you come across anyone else that asks, why am I suffering? I don't want to suffer. You can tell them this, say, hello friend, you are here because you want to be here. You want to fulfill your unholy desire to be enjoyer, which is not your position, which is not the position of all the living entities. Living entities' true position is to be an eternal servant of Krishna. Okay, right now itself, if you don't believe in Krishna, you have no respect for Krishna, you are still a servant. Okay, once somebody asked, but Prabhu, I don't agree with this, at that time the president of United States was Bill Clinton. So he says, Bill Clinton, no, he's a great man. He's not a servant. He's a leader of the world, president of the United States. So I asked him back, why do you think he's the most powerful person? Why do you think? Well, he won election. I said, what election? He is a powerful person because he's a servant of 300 million Americans. That's the reason why he is a big man. He's a servant of 300 million American citizens. Similarly, I explained to him, why is Bill Gates the most richest man in the world? Why? Because he's the servant of more customers than any other businessman out there. He serves more customers than any other businessman out there. So he's a great servant. So even if you don't believe in Krishna, you are a servant. If you don't, if you think to yourself, but I am not a president, I am not a big person, I am not a rich man, I am not this, I am not that. Well, you can ask yourself, are you a slave to your senses or not? You are a servant of your senses. So you are a servant. You are eternally a servant. You'll be serving some person, or you're serving your uncontrollable mind in your senses, or better still, Krishna says, take to the surrendering process of devotional service. This facility of ISKCON centers around the world is for that purpose only, for everyone to come and to render some practice, performing activities without any expectation of any return or reward. That is devotional service. Only when you practice such things, then there is a chance from within your heart something pure can come. So long as you perform activities in this material world with some expectation of some reward or you'll constantly be entangled in the web of karmic reaction. So this Krishna consciousness is actually a very great boon in human society. So after Krishna heard these very exalted prayers that was offered to him by his own father, Krishna says, yes, my father, what you say is very true. What you say is very true, is very right. But you have to understand that you are a very special soul. You are beyond all regulative principles that is stated in the Vedas, simply because you are my father not only in this life, but in my past life also. Many times in the past you have become my father. So you will continue to serve as in your position as my father, to facilitate the appearance and disappearance of the Supreme Lord, to give blessings upon all living entities. So by saying that, Krishna says that you please remain as my father. You are not obligated to perform anything for me, because I've already given my full blessing onto you. You have to also understand that it is not only a one-way arrangement. Not only Krishna gave Vasudeva the opportunity to become his father. Vasudeva himself, he desired that he wanted only Krishna as his son lifetime after lifetime. And he performed severe austerities lifetime after lifetime for this purpose only. So the lesson here is that with full knowledge, full transcendental vigyan, no, realized knowledge, you can desire the same thing also. If you desire so, you can follow in the footsteps of personalities like Nanda Maharaj, Mother Yashoda, Vasudev, Devaki. You can follow in the footsteps of Sachi Mata and Jagannath Misra, King Dasaratha and Kaikeyi and what they call Kausalya. You can. This is the message in Srimad Bhagavatam. And all you have to do is to cultivate this desire by practicing devotional service. So the story continues. After this conversation between Vasudeva and Krishna, Devaki was there. Devaki was there and she was listening to this wonderful conversation. So she took the opportunity to ask Krishna, her son, my dear son, when before your appearance, your other siblings, there were seven siblings that appeared before Krishna that Kamsa killed by smashing their head on the walls of the prison house. So she says, I am hankering, my heart is hankering to see this child again because they were my children. So I heard that you gave the same boon to your spiritual master Santipani Muni. Santipani Muni asked Krishna when he was graduating from Gurukul that he wants to see his son. He wants to see his son again. So Krishna and Balaram both, they went to Yamaloka. They met Yamaraj and brought back the son of Santipani Muni. So Devaki thought to herself, let me take this opportunity to ask from Krishna back this seven siblings of Krishna that Kamsa killed. So immediately Krishna and Balaram say, yes, mother, if that's your desire, we will go and bring them. So Krishna and Balaram both, they went to Patal Lok. Patal Lok is the abode of Bali Maharaj. Therefore, you can see this prayer is offered by Bali Maharaj. This prayer is so wonderful. I just can't wait to read it again. Actually, if you don't mind. King Bali saw Krishna and Balaram coming, and this is what he said: obeisance to the unlimited Lord Ananta, the greatest of all beings, and obeisance to Lord Krishna, the creator of the universe, who appeared as impersonal absolute and the super soul in order to disseminate the principle of Sankhya and Yoga. This is what he said. Seeing your lordships is a rare achievement for most living beings, but even persons like us situated in a mode of passion and ignorance can easily see you when you reveal yourself by your own sweet will. This is a very, very beautiful point. Sometimes we think by mistake that because I'm a devotee, or I've become initiated, or I have some rights, I have some some privileges, which is actually true also. But your privilege is actually to perform devotional service for the satisfaction of your guru. You have no real right directly to do with Krishna. But here Bali Maharaj is saying that to see Krishna and Balaram is a very, very, very difficult, rare achievement for most living beings. But even persons like us situated in a mode of passion and ignorance, that is you and me, can easily see you when you reveal yourself by your own sweet will. This is the causeless mercy of Krishna. So this one reminds me of pastime of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada once said that if Krishna likes you, he'll give you everything. When Krishna loves you, Krishna takes everything from you. So even that is the manifestation of Krishna's mercy. So Krishna's activities, his appearance, disappearance, his blessing or his curse, all doesn't need any reasoning. He can appear as he will, and he can give blessing as he wills. But for that to happen is very, very difficult. But if you take initiation under a pure devotee and you try to serve that pure devotee, and that pure devotee being pleased with you, that devotee within his heart will speak to Krishna and say, my dear Lord Krishna, this devotee of mine is so nice, so wonderful. please, give him liberation. Let him get what they call liberation from this material world. Krishna, hearing such a request from his pure devotee, he will say, yes, okay. Do you want me to give liberation to your disciple? I'll give. Even though Krishna understands, he knows that this disciple actually not qualified, is still very much, entangled in this material world, got some dirty things in his heart and all that. But Krishna he say, because my pure devotee said, to give you liberation, I'll give you liberation. Finish. That is the secret actually to advancing in spiritual life. So the causeless mercy of the Supreme Lord is at the lotus feet of Sri Guru. So must please remember that. It's a very important point. Many have been made constantly absorbed in enmity towards you, ultimately became attached to you, who are the direct embodiment of transcendental goodness and whose divine form comprise the revealed scriptures. These reformed enemies include Daitas, Danavas, Gandharvas, Siddhas, Vidyaharas, Charanas, Yakshas, Rakshasas, Pikasas, Bhutas, Paramattas and Nayaks, and these are all his relations. This Bali Maharaj is the king of the demons. These are all his relations. These are all the demoniac race. And other ourselves and many others like us. Some of us have become attracted to you because of exceptional hatred, while others have become attracted because of their mode of devotion based on lust. But the demigods and other infatuated by material goodness feel no such attraction for you. So Bali Maharaj is making the point here that somehow or other, by the grace of his pure devotees, even these demons are the most lowest among lowest. They are envious of Krishna. They have no what they call good opinion of Krishna or Vishnu. So even this, he says, even they, being envious, simply by seeing the Supreme Lord, simply by seeing him, they become purified at heart. They become purified at heart. In fact, there was one story I heard from one Vaishnava. I do not know if this story is authorized or not, but it's such a charming story. This Bali Maharaj, he's in Patal Lok, and he has the great fortune of having the Supreme Lord as his security guard. Okay, why? Because this Bali Maharaj, he is the king of the demons, and at the same time, he is also one of the greatest devotee of Lord Vishnu. So much so that Lord Vishnu now has appeared as his security guard, and in the hellish planets known as Patal Lok. So in this Patal Lok, is just surrounded by all demons only. So all of them are angry with this Bali Maharaj. Why? Because you have betrayed, you have betrayed our culture. Our culture is to be envious of Lord Vishnu. So how can you do like this? So what happens is in Patal Lok, this Bali Maharaj will be sitting in a very, very opulent palace, so opulent. And at the door will be this Lord Vishnu. He is standing there to guard him, to protect his pure devotee. And what happens is these demons they will come and attack this palace. And every time they come and attack, Lord Vishnu will defeat them, will chase them away. These soldiers that come, these soldiers that come, when they first come and attack, they will see Lord Vishnu with the sword in the hand, with the arrow in the hand, with all this weapon in the hand. They will see Lord Vishnu and they will try to attack. At first, and then Lord Vishnu will chase them off. First, one time, second time, third time, 10 time, 20 time. By some time, 30th time or something, these same soldiers, these same demons, because they see the Lord so much, their heart from hatred become love. So what they will do now is they will attack out of just performing their duty, but one hand or holding sword, next hand they will have flowers. So they will attack Lord Vishnu, and then when they come near, they will throw flowers and then they will run off. Just to show their boss, hey, I went to attack, you asked me to go, I went, So this is such a charming story, but so far I have not found this anywhere, but anyway, I felt it was so charming, I should tell you this. So let's move on. What Bali Maharaj said. What to speak of ourselves, O Lord of all perfect yogis? Even the greatest mystic do not know what your spiritual power of delusion is and how it acts. Yeah, that's true. This Krishna is beyond mystery. Srila Prabhupada has told one pastime whereby the cowherd men of Vrindavan, every day they'll come and see their boss Nanda Maharaj, and they will sit around and they will tell Nanda Maharaj, Nanda, your son Krishna, he is so wonderful, so many wonderful things he's doing. I think he must be some great deva. He must be some great deva. They cannot in their mind accept Krishna as a supreme personality of Godhead. Why? Because their nature of their love is their love is very intimate. It is devoid of any awe and reverence. They cannot, for them to see Krishna as Kadaval. They just cannot. Why? Because if you have that awe and reverence, the sweetness that they have in their heart, their love cannot manifest. So therefore they are talking to Nanda Maharaj, saying, your Krishna is so wonderful. He must be some great deva. So when Srila Prabhupada was telling these pastimes, Srila Prabhupada said that don't try to understand Krishna. It is not possible for us to understand Krishna. Don't try to understand Krishna. We simply try to love him. That's all. Just like the Vrajavasis, the gopis and the gopas, they don't want to understand Krishna. They don't want to know, oh, you're great, you're this, you're that. They're not interested in all of that. So this is actually for us neophyte is actually very instructive, because we don't have the capacity to fully understand. We cannot pretend to be, oh, I'm very intelligent, I can understand Krishna, I'm very great, that all ego talk. We shouldn't get into all that. We should just follow in the footsteps of the great acharyas. They're such great personalities, but they behave in such a humble way. They behave like, I'm stupid, number one, I don't know anything. I only know my guru tell me to do this, I just do this, that's it, finish. And they just serve Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada, many times he told his Western devotees, don't try to become big devotees. Don't try to have an ambition to become great devotees. No. Just try to become a nice devotee. Just do everything nicely. Try to preach Krishna consciousness to yourself first. Try to be right with you first. Try to gain qualities that are good with you first. And when you have such good qualities within your heart, you will attract such good quality people also. If you have all kinds of nonsense things in your heart, you create situation where people feel bad about you. You make them feel bad. What to speak of people? Devotees feel bad about what you do and what you say. How is that good? How is that a service to your guru? How is that service to Krishna? First of all, try to inculcate values that are pleasing to Guru and Krishna. That is the way to go. That is what Srila Prabhupada meant. Don't try to become a big devotee. Just try to become a good devotee. That's all. So this is what Bali Maharaj is saying here. Right? I went to the wrong place. Okay. What to speak of yogis? Yes. And then he went on to say, "Oh Lord of all subordinate creatures, please tell us what to do and thus free us from our sins. One who fully executes your commands, O Master, is no longer obligated to follow ordinary Vedic rituals." You see, he's repeating what I just said. Not to say repeating what I said. I repeated what Bali Maharaj said. "O Lord of all subordinate creatures, please tell us what to do and thus free us from all sins. One who faithfully executes your command, O Master, is no longer obliged to follow the ordinary Vedic rites." And that is true. Vaishnavas are very much more exalted than any other transcendentalist. Simply because the Supreme Lord being manifested in their hearts, and these devotees also fully absorbed in performing activities only to please the Supreme Lord, they come under the Daivi Prakriti of Krishna. Daivi Prakriti means the transcendental nature of Krishna. We don't come under the material nature, but we come under the Daivi Prakriti. When you come under the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord, that means the Supreme Lord controls your activities, your destiny, your desire, everything. He takes charge of you. That is a Vaishnava. For those who are still entangled in this material world, still got desire to enjoy this material world, these Vedic rituals are meant for that. And the purpose behind all these Vedic rituals is to gradually purify your heart so that you come to the position of meeting a pure devotee, Vaishnava devotee of the Lord. So after saying all these prayers, Krishna asked Bali to do this favor for him. And Krishna explained that during the age of the first Manu, the sage Marichi had 6 sons by his wife Urna. They were all exalted devotees. They were all exalted demigods. But once they laughed at Lord Brahma when they saw him in a very compromising position. So here, Krishna was telling that there was a demigod by the name of Marichi. He had 6 sons, and these 6 sons one day offended Lord Brahma, and by offending Lord Brahma, Lord Brahma cursed these 6 demigods, the 6 devas, to be born as the son of a demon. So these 6 boys were born as the son of Hiranyakashipu. So when Hiranyakashipu was in charge of Indraloka and he was torturing the devas, what happened was one of the devas tried to create a plot to bring down Hiranyakashipu, because Hiranyakashipu was such a terror. He was giving the devas a hard time, really torturing them left, right, and center. So these devas couldn't take it. So one of the devas somehow recruited these 6 sons of Hiranyakashipu, who were actually in their former life these devas who got cursed by Lord Brahma. So when Hiranyakashipu found out that these 6 sons, his 6 sons, they were plotting to bring him down, Hiranyakashipu got very, very angry. He cursed his sons. He said, "You be born in your next life, whereby you will be killed by your while you're still a child, still in the womb form." So these 6 children were born as the sons of Devaki in the prison cell of Kamsa in Mathura. So these 6 boys were all killed. So Krishna says, I want these 6 boys because these 6 boys, they came from the womb of my mother Devaki, and Devaki wished to see them. So when Bali heard this, he said, "Yes, these boys are here. Come, you take them. Go." So Krishna and Balaram took these 6 boys. They went to deliver these boys to Devaki Mata. Devaki Mata saw these boys only. Immediately from her breast, milk came. So she manja them like anything, manja them, treat them like little children, let them sit on her lap, sayang them, all 6 boys. And after they have got all these blessings from her, immediately they turned into Deva form and they all went back to Devaloka. So when Devaki saw this, she became a bit bewildered. She said, "Oh, this is the magical potency of Krishna. Even though I know you're the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and I know these children come, they take birth after birth, they have different mothers, different fathers. But I had this desire in my heart, and by your mercy, I get to fulfill this. And by doing this, you allow this to happen so that these souls get liberation." So this story was very interesting in the sense that sometimes I see people, they become very overjoyed to have children, and most people think, they think children are like, it's a blessing. But most of the times I see they don't behave like that. Sometimes the children, they grow up, they become real hantu, number one. So therefore, you see in Shastra, it is stated here that even in the earlier prayer by Vasudeva also, he says that by Bali Maharaj, he said, please free me from this entanglement of family life. What this Bali Maharaj meant was family life where the religion of that family is to simply enjoy material life. That kind of family life is very entangling, but not Vaishnava families. Vaishnava families, they have children and they live their life like a Vaishnava. They serve each other as if they are each one. The wife thinks the husband is a devotee of Krishna. The husband thinks the wife is a devotee of Krishna. Both father and mother think that the children are also a devotee of Krishna. The father and mother think themselves as only caretakers. Not, oh, these children are my property, I can do as I please, I can torture them. No, they don't think like that. They treat them like devotees. They train them up like devotees. They show love and affection to them like devotees. And in the end, they make sure that their dependents, the husband will make sure the wife get liberation, the children get liberation, the mother will make sure the husband get liberation, the children get liberation. When the children get liberation, the children will make sure that 7 generation or 21 generation or 32 generations of their family get liberation, because it is stated in Shastra that when one pure devotee appears in a family, his presence alone will free so many generations of his family before and after, all get liberation. So this devotional service is so wonderful and so powerful that anybody who practices it cannot even begin to imagine the benefits that come from performing devotional service. So for those who are senior devotees, I beg your forgiveness if I said anything wrong, but I would like to take this opportunity to beg all of you all to think of each other more like devotees, not as enemies, number one, because I see a lot of infighting. And then for those new devotees, new devotees, please understand whatever you see around you with regards to senior devotees, you must take it as their leela, their pastime. Because in this material world, nothing is permanent. Today they are fighting, tomorrow they are fan, and then they'll fight again, and then again they'll become friends. So you as junior devotees, don't make the mistake of taking sides. You must think this is all Krishna's idea, Krishna's plan. This is Krishna's plan to see who is weak in heart and who wants to be a kepochi and get involved when he is not supposed to get involved. And when unnecessary involvement starts, people say things that they regret. I made this mistake myself. So this is my kind request to all. And of course, senior devotees, their role is very great. So we should always, every day, pray to Krishna from the bottom of our heart. Please, Krishna, help me to become the kind of devotee that is worthy of respect from everyone else. So this is actually the achar, the upachar, the achar, the desire and the longing of a Vaishnava devotee of the Lord. Hare Krishna. I shall end here. Thank you very much for listening. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.